and basically we only got one lad that was any good out of that, and we've had to sack him because he's not extremely good at the end of it. All these lads are going on about YTS courses and etc, etc. We offered an apprenticeship at 40 quid a week. We were going to pay £250 for the first year to send them to college. We were going to give them all support and 4-year apprenticeship with us.
What was wrong with the lad you got?
He was useless.
That doesn't tell me anything.
He was great on the mouth, but when it actually came down to working for a living and going out and digging, shoveling shit as it is, or the hard
What's
work,
an apprentice doing that for?
basically to show us that he's got the graft behind him. He's got the will to work.
An apprentice isn't for that.
It is.
You want a labourer for that?
No.
Yes.
No. Well, the basis of all building, of everything, is the more effort you put into it, the more you get out of it.
Well, you don't have to tell me. I put quite a lot of effort into this and get quite a considerable amount out. But if somebody told me to start doing the brushing up in order to learn to be a broadcaster, I'd say, I'm sorry, you don't brush up to learn to be a broadcaster.
Well, surely if you're a bricklayer, you should know what your labourer is expected to do.
Why?
You've got to understand every part of the job.
Get stood on, have you? Hell,
you have.
that's a nonsense.
Of course you have.
Well, bricklaying is building. Laying bricks, knowing all about laying bricks, knowing about foundations and footings and eaves and all that crap. It's not about shoveling muck.
You still have to know how many mixes of sand to one mix of cement you have to put into...
Fine, but you said shoveling muck.
Well, basically you have to shovel it into a cement mixer.
Are you saying that cement comes under your category of muck?
Yeah.
Ah, well, now we're making progress. If you mean he couldn't work a cement mixer and he couldn't load a cement mixer, then fine.
He was lazy.
Well,
he was lazy.
If you're saying he's lazy, fine. What you said was he wasn't very good at shoveling muck.
The basic point that I wanted to make, that although there's a load of lads out there probably willing to work, in their own minds they're willing to work, but when it actually gets down to it, they're not very good at real...
How much time did you give this guy?
4 days.
4 days? That was really generous of you.
Well, sure. When I go for my first job, or my first day on the job, I'll work hard at it.
Fine.
This lad, unfortunately, didn't even work on the first day.
So you're obviously not very good at picking them, are you?
Maybe not, maybe not. But
out of how many came to see you?
14.
You're not telling me that in those other 13 there wasn't one that would have worked?
We've got to go through a stage of trying them.
Right, well, I suggest you get on with it.
Even after that, there's 130 phone calls and we made 130 interview times. And for 14 people to turn up for that, they can't be extremely desperate for work.
So it would seem.
And not just the YTS work where they're gonna earn 27 quid a week, or whatever the young man was on about before. They're getting taken the rip out of by employers, etc. A good steady job where they're going to increase their wages every year. They're going to get sent to college. It's going to cost an employer a fortune to put them through an apprenticeship, so they'll be worth something to us at the end of it.
Fortune? I thought you were on £25 a year.
No, 250 quid a year.
Oh, sorry, 250. That's a fortune, is it?
It's expensive for someone that you've got to waste a bricklayer's time.
It's not a fortune, is it?
It's enough.
It's a £5 a week.
It's enough.
Well, all right, it's enough. You said it was a fortune.
It is a fortune.
If your concept of employment is 250 quid is a fortune, then you could perhaps better off without any employees. How do, Colin?
I'd like one favour for me, please, Alan. That's just to sit down and listen for 1 minute, please. I once knew a fella who was very rich, and he said to his eldest son, he goes, "What do you want, son, when I die?" And he goes, "I'd like all your oil rigs, please, father." He goes, "Okay, fine." And he said to his other son, he goes, "What do you want when I die?" And he goes, "I'd like all your shops and your businesses, please." He goes, "Okay, you've got it, son." And he goes to his youngest son, he was only 10 years old. He goes, "What do you want, son?" He goes, "I'd like a cowboy outfit, please." He goes, "Okay, sound." He goes, "I'll buy you a Red Rose radio."
It's an old one, though, isn't it?
It's a nice one, though, isn't it, Alan?
It's not all that nice. I mean, it's years old.
Come on, it's good enough.
Well, it was good in about 1920 when it was written. But anyway, thanks very much.
Okay.
Ta-ra.
Ta-ra, Alan.
Ta-ra. If you want to join us on the phone in, you're more than welcome on Preston 561,000. I shouldn't bother ringing for a moment or two, because we're going to have one of our super-duper melodic moments. That's him, isn't it? It's your man. Used to be a clown. Leo Sayer and Orchard Road. Prior to that was an album, or a track from an album, that I've not heard all the way through yet. Indeed, I've only heard the track that you just heard. But I know every song on it, because they were all written by Leonard Cohen bar one. And you know I'm a Leonard Cohen freak. And it's called Jennifer Warren's Famous Blue Raincoat. Famous Blue Raincoat being the track I played, and of course the Famous Blue Raincoat was indeed a Leonard Cohen song. And the subtitle of it is Jenny Plays Lenny, which is rather nice, isn't it? Yes, of course. And it's got songs on it like First We Take Manhattan, Bird on the Wire, Joan of Arc, in which Leonard Cohen also appears. So it's actually rather good. Perhaps you'd like to buy a copy. I'm always favour of people buying copies of things associated with Leonard Cohen. Indeed, I might even buy a copy myself. Now there's conscientious. This is not a bad one, but there's no Bruno on this one, which is rather good.
Oh, when the sun beats down and burns the tar up on the roof.
Oh, we don't want that. We've done that. Which aren't they close together? Them K-Tel tracks. Oh, this is knockout. Long John Baldry. Let the heartaches begin. This'll drive you insane. Like riding a horse listening to this. Stone the Crow. It's all gooey, Darren, isn't it? It's all gooey as that Long John Baldry fella is a little belter. Wow, that starts funny, doesn't it?
The 1 o'clock news, this is Sarah Jones.
Ring him if you dare.
Allan Beswick, the late night show.
And the telephone number, if you wish to join us, is Preston 56 1000 at 3.5 minutes past 1. We're into the final hour.
Stereo sound going around. Stereo sound on Red Rose.
How do Ian?
Good morning, Alan. Could you tell me, please, how Leonard Cohen died?
He's still alive.
Leonard Cohen is?
Yeah.
I thought he died. He's American.
You think what you like, he's still alive and he was Canadian.
Ah, right. Thank you very much.
Ta-ra.
Thank you, bye.
How do Samantha?
Hello?
Hello?
'Twas on a bright October morning, December last July. The moon lay thick upon the grass, and the sludge lit up the sky. The flowers were singing beautifully, and the birds were in full bloom, as I went into the cellar to sweep the upstairs room. I opened up my window, and there to my delight, I saw 1,000 miles away a house just out of sight. The doors projected inwards, the front was at the back. It stood alone between two more, and it was whitewashed black. Pretty good, eh?
A nonsense rhyme, not dissimilar to The elephant is a bonny bird, it flits from bough to bough. It makes its nest in a rhubarb tree and whistles like a cow.
Not bad.
Ta-da.
Hello?
Go on, hello.
Can I ask you something else?
Yeah.
Can I have your job when you leave?
You can ask for those who make the decision, or of those who make the decision. Mike Henfield, write to him and say, when that Allan Beswick leaves, if ever he does, will you give us his job?
And what will he say?
He might listen. You never know, he might listen. Somebody's got to have a job, haven't they?
This is it.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
How do, Brian?
How do, Alan? I'd like to talk about extradition.
Go on.
Over the last, 10 months now, we've seen about these football animals who are getting extradited to Belgium. But there's nothing been said about, an extradition attempt, 25 years ago, over these ex-Nazi war criminals, when they're supposed to be around about the 30, 35 mark still in this country. Even one was mentioned living in, I think it was Edinburgh on the news bulletin. I didn't quite catch it all. But, you've got fellas that in this country living now what are sheltered through bureaucracy, what cannot be, extradited to countries what were allies during the last war, and have, committed some of
the extradition rules are treaties.
Mm-hmm.
We have no extradition treaty with Russia. We have no power in this country to extradite somebody for a crime that we are not in a position to prosecute on.
But you see, if they were originally Germans, if they went back to the country of origin, where they've originated.
Well, that isn't necessarily the case, although it is fairly certain that some of them will be originally German, but some of them could be Austrian, some of them could be Russian, some of them could be Ukrainian.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed, the man being tried in Israel at the moment is a Ukrainian.
Ukrainian, yeah. But
there was a man put to death in Russia, we don't know when, we are led to believe it was in the last 7 days, a man who was extradited from America to Russia for war crimes and crimes against humanity, and indeed for treason, and he was a Ukrainian. I think it was I can't remember his name, doesn't matter, but he was put to death in the last week or so in Russia.
Yeah, well, the last one prior to him was Adolf Eichmann. That was, 25 years ago?
No, that's not correct.
Well, let's go on by what's been on the news lately.
Fine, I'm not bothered about what's been on the news lately.
25 years ago, he was put to death.
Well, yes, Adolf Eichmann was put to death 25 years ago, and that was the last one, as far as I'm aware, in Israel. It wasn't the last one altogether. But go on.
But the thing is, there's such a big fuss about these football animals. That's all they are, is animals.
Well, no, let us wait until they've been tried, should we, before we condemn them?
Well, let's face it, there's got to be a case to answer if they're getting, they're going to be extradited.
No, they are innocent until proven guilty, and I'm pedantic enough to leave it that way. If you want to convict them without a trial, then fine, go ahead, but I'm not going to.
Well, that's your opinion, but...
No, that is the law. That's not my opinion at all. That is the law.
Our law doesn't come into it now, does it?
Our law does come into it. Our law does come into it, because unless that was the principle, it would not be permissible for them to be extradited. Yeah,
well, you see, it's like swings and roundabouts, this extradition thing, because, you're getting fellas, going back to the last war, who committed, some of the worst and, atrocities of the last 60 years prior to World War One, when these other guys were, they said, we'll use fluorine and mustard gases, that's going to maim and cripple.
Would you like to tell me what point you're making, instead of drivelling on about all that nonsense?
Well, it wasn't really nonsense.
No, indeed. You just made it sound nonsense. So will you tell me what point you're making?
No, my point is that we're going on about football fans that they get more priorities over the killing of.
No, are you suggesting that we should break the law of the land, that the government should, or the authorities should break the law of this land?
Well.
It's a simple question. It is a simple question. Would you like to answer it? Do you think the authorities should break the laws of Britain?
Well, the laws of Britain
Let us settle for a yes or a no for the time being. Do you think the authorities should knowingly break the laws of Britain? Let us settle for a yes or a no for the time being. Do you think the authorities should break the laws of Britain?
No.
No. Okay, so we've got an answer. It took some doing, but we've got it. The long ones are always the hardest. Go on.
Right. Now, you see, these lads who are going to Belgium to be tried.
Within the realms of the laws of Britain, the extradition proceedings were. Go on.
Right. So they've exhausted all possible appeals.
They have indeed.
Right. So they're going to Belgium. So what happens now is, when they get off these shores,
they will no longer be under the jurisdiction of British justice, but on the jurisdiction of Belgian justice.
That's what we've got to now.
That is the case, yes.
Right. Now then, you see, you look at the Yanks. Now, fair enough. Hey, you move there next week, we're going to make you a citizen of the States. But 6 months later, something's cropped up. You're no good to us now. We're cancelling your citizenship and we'll ship you back. And they can do that.
Yes, that is so.
That then doesn't become extradition. That just makes, a mockery of extradition. And of course then...
But we are not America. So what America do, are you suggesting that we should do what America does, or are you suggesting that we should not do what America does?
Well, hey, why not? Well, they made sense on it.
Well, just a moment. What does the law of the land this land. I'm not bothered about the law of America, Belgium, Russia, or anywhere else. What does the law of this land say about the citizenship of a person once it has been granted?
I don't know.
Do you not think it would assist you in coming to a point of view if you sought out that information?
I suppose it would do, but you see, you go on to a case now like the Russians were the only ones who were I'm trying to think of his name now. Hess. Now the Russians were the only one objected to letting Hess go, because let's face it, he's no good to anyone after 40 years. Being in prison.
Yes, I know the Russians were the only ones. What is the relevance of this?
Well, the relevance of that is that Hess. Well, I'm going by history. What I can remember, I couldn't quote exactly.
Go on.
But he landed in Scotland, and he divulged information what was beneficial to the British and Allies during the last war.
I don't think that is so. He arrived here to sue for peace. I don't think he divulged any information that I don't know of it.
Well, I'm going to try and go back onto things what I've seen on telly, such as all our yesterdays when that was on. There used to be an ardent watch.
Well, I've heard it said many times that he arrived in Britain claiming to be attempting to sue for peace. But I don't think it's ever been said that he divulged any secret information. Mm-hmm. However, go on.
Well, that'd be one.
Why do you think the Russians won't release Hess?
I think the Russians have got their own prerogatives on.
What do you think the prerogative is?
Well,
or priority, I think you mean.
Well, priorities or prerogatives on
Well, the prerogative is the right to choose.
Yeah,
so they clearly have the right to choose.
Jail him
what I am asking, well, they haven't got the right to choose whether they will execute Hess because he wasn't sentenced to the death penalty. He was sentenced to life imprisonment, ultimately, which he's still serving. The question I put to you, which you appear to choose not to answer or not to hear, I'm not sure which, but the question I put was, why do you think it is that the Russians don't want Hess to be released from Spandau?
I think it's just on principle.
Well, what principle?
Basically, because he was high up on Hitler's staff.
No, it's not even nearly that.
Well, what do you reckon, Sue?
What do you think happens? First of all, where is Spandau jail?
Spandau's in West Germany, isn't it?
Not quite, although geographically it isn't, although administratively it is. That should give you a clue about where it is.
Well, it's going to be on the border then, isn't it?
No.
Well,
if I tell you it's right in the heart of East Germany, and yet is still in West Germany administratively, where is it?
I couldn't, to be honest, I've never been to Berlin, so I couldn't tell you.
Well, that's where it is, Berlin.
Yeah.
You see, Berlin isn't on the border between East and West Germany. Berlin is right bang in the heart of East Germany. Mm-hmm. But the city is divided. Do you remember? You're one that watches all our yesterdays and did do with a verve.
Put a wall up.
They built a wall, but what else did they do?
To be honest,
do you remember Mr. Laker and all those people flying aeroplanes 24 hours a day down the Berlin corridor?
No.
Feeding the Berlin people because the East Germans tried to seal the whole of Berlin off, tried to surround it and isolate it?
No, I don't.
Well, you see, your history's not as good as you thought it was. Never mind. Berlin is divided, of course, into sectors. Generally, it's seen to be divided into East and West. It's a little more complicated than that. Spandau Jail, Spandau Prison, is actually in West Berlin, which, of course, the Russians do not normally have access to.
Yeah.
But by keeping Hess in Spandau Prison, they have a reason to come into West Berlin for a quarter of every year. Indeed, a quarter of every year.
That's right,
because they mount the guard, because it's done on a rota.
Yeah, it's the French, the Russians, the Americans, and the English.
That's right. So they have access to West Berlin for a quarter of every year without having to do anything untoward, without doing any clandestine. That's why they want him kept in prison, so that they can have the opportunity to guard him, which gives them the opportunity for other things.
Mm-hmm. But then again, they could have 30 more reasons that,
That's the only one that matters, because when he dies, as eventually he must, and he will do soon, I suppose, they will then lose that foothold. So that's why he's kept.
But going back to what, originally...
Well, I thought we might get back there eventually. I wondered why we were talking about Rudolf Hess, actually, but never mind.
No, I was going to say, there must be some grounds that in English law where you could, terminate British citizenship.
Why must there be? Do you want there to be?
Well,
do you want there to be?
Myself, I think
do you want there
to
be?
I think there should be.
So, what are you suggesting? That citizenship should not be a permanent status quo?
Well, for anyone arriving in the country, yes. It doesn't matter what race, creed, or colour.
So you would have those who seek out British citizenship and legally are entitled to it. You would have them as a second-class British citizenship.
No.
Well, it is second class. You can't revoke. You can't revoke your citizenship. You can't revoke your citizenship, can you?
No.
You can't revoke your citizenship.
Have the same law for everyone.
Brian, listen carefully, please. It's very difficult for me if you don't. You can't have your citizenship of Britain revoked, can you?
Not as far as I know.
Well, what nationality would you be if they revoked it?
Well, you'd become an unpatriotic person, wouldn't you?
No, you wouldn't be unpatriotic. I am very clearly and definitely unpatriotic. I'm still British.
Yeah.
So, they can't take that away. I am British.
Yeah.
They cannot remove it. Because there's nothing left if they do. I become a stateless person, as they're called.
Yeah.
So, are you suggesting that there should be other British citizens who are no longer in the position that I am? In other words, their citizenship can be revoked.
Yeah, well,
are you or aren't you? Yes or no, will do.
Well, it's hard to say.
Are you or aren't you? I want an answer. I don't care how hard it is. You've answered it once. Are you now having difficulty remembering your answer?
No, I'd say yes.
You think there should be?
Yeah.
So when I said to you, should there be first and second class British citizenship, and you said no, you now mean yes. Obviously. No. You can't be yes to a certain extent. You either mean it is that or it isn't that.
Well,
it is very clearly a lesser degree of citizenship if it can be taken away, when there is another that cannot be taken away. So British citizenship is either permanent or at the behest and indeed the control of the authorities. Mine is not at the control of the authorities, so if some individual is a British citizen for as long as the authorities permit, that person has a lesser degree of citizenship than I. They have all the benefits, if they are such, they have all the pleasures and indeed all the responsibilities of British citizenship, but at any time the Home Office or whatever department you want to give this responsibility to can suddenly say, okay, you're not a British citizen anymore.
Yeah,
so theirs is a lesser degree, isn't it? Is it or isn't it? Not technically, it either is or it isn't.
Yeah, well, I'll have to agree with you there.
It does not have the same authority as my British citizenship, and indeed, to be fair, your British citizenship, does it?
Right, now...
Therefore, it is a lesser degree, is it not?
Yes,
there, that is that. So you do want first and second class British citizenship, do you not?
No,
do you or don't you?
Technically, yes.
No, I'm not interested in this technically yes crap. You either do or you don't, Brian. Do you or don't you?
No, you'd have...
Brian, do you or do... No, you won't have one class. You will have more than one class. You have already said that.
Yeah, but the thing is, you got to, right...
Brian, I know you're ashamed... Brian, I know you're ashamed of your opinion, and I feel very, very sorry for that. But I can't do anything about it. The truth is, you want citizenship for those who gain it by various means other than a natural birthright to be removable. Correct?
Yes.
Right. Don't be don't be ashamed, Brian. You're a grown-up, for crying out loud. Be proud of your opinion. I'm proud of mine.
Right.
Right, so you do want second-class British citizenship?
Yeah.
Let me ask you the inevitable question, although you won't see it as inevitable. If we give the Home Office the power, or if we allow the Home Office to take the power to say, you were a British citizen, indeed you are a British citizen, but tomorrow you will not be, to people who have come here and been welcomed, do we not start a ball rolling that we might regret? Imagine the situation.
Yeah, it could
If you did,
snowball, like you
listen,
say.
listen. Imagine the situation. If you did something, you, Brian, did something that the state found